Tonight on Joy News Prime, Vice President Dr. Mohammad Valmiya defends government's decision to clean up the banking sector, insisting it was painful but necessary.
The decision to clean up the financial sector was painful but had to be undertaken. But you had a situation where you had a cancer and it's on your toe. And if you don't cut it off, it is going to spread. And we had to cut it off.
But the General Secretary of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, Solomon Kote, believes the approach was not well thought through.
The approach they took, you woke up one morning, you go to office, your office is locked, they say go home. So assuming you are going to take money from there to go and help your ailing mother, it's gone with it.
And farmers and residents living along the waterways of the White Volta River in the northeast region are racing against time to salvage their farm produce and evacuate ahead of the spillage of the Bagri Dam tomorrow.
We use canoe to salvage these crops. We are risking our lives because we have to feed our family. We stand in the water at neck level to harvest what we could.
And in business, banks and financial institutions lose 25 million cedis, the spike in fraud cases last year. Latest data from the Bank of Ghana shows the total value of reported fraud cases hit 1 billion cedis.
The issue of fraud, and especially what is being reported by BOG, has got to do with more of the operational side of the bank. And that has got to do with the weakness in the internal control system that these institutions may have set up.
And later in the bulletin, the guts to pound fufu on the Pokwase interchange. Ghana is indeed a free country. Well, the fufu pounders have been granted bail.
Were arrested. They have been processed and bail to come back for further investigation.
My name is Daniel Dazi, and Joy News Prime is coming to you live from our Fanofa studios at Kokomlemle here in Accra on your digital terrestrial television, because we are free to air, and also on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is the home of independent, fearless, credible and impactful journalism. Stay tuned in. Great to have you with us. Let's take the details. Now, the Wa Circuit Court, presided over by Justice Barfoss in Japan, has sentenced 50-year-old private security personnel to 10 years imprisonment for defiling a 12-year-old girl. The court established that the private security personnel defiled the girl multiple times at the security post and in nearby bush. Joy News' Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam sat through the court proceedings and reports from Wa.
Prosecuting Senior State Attorney Lawyer Said Abdul Shakur told the court in camera that the complainant was in his room when his younger brother came to him and informed him that he saw the victim seated on the laps of the accused person at the security post. He said the complainant suspected foul play and secretly took the victim to the SDDU-based hospital on the same day without the accused person knowing. After the examination, the medical doctor revealed that the victim's hymen was broken, indicating that she was defiled. Investigations later revealed that the 50-year-old accused person had several unprotected sex with the victim in his security post and at a nearby bush around the same vicinity. Lawyer Said stated that during the course of investigations, the victim led the police and the accused person to a nearby bush and pointed to a spot where the accused person always brings her for his unprotected sexual pleasure. The accused person, however, pleaded not guilty to the charge at the court, and the case went for a full trial. After 3 months of the trial and having several witnesses testifying, the prosecution was able to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the accused person actually defiled the 12-year-old primary sex pupil. The presiding judge, Justice Barfoss in Japan, sentenced Ibrahim Mohammad to 10 years imprisonment and in hard labor. The Wasegud Court also ruled on a case of robbery involving two accused persons. 23-year-old Sattar Salifu and his accomplice who is currently at large, were alleged to have hijacked at gunpoint a self-employed IT expert. They robbed him of his black Samsung Z2 smartphone and 960 Ghana cedis. With the aid of a phone tracker, the plaintiff used a smartphone of his wife to track calls made by the first accused person, although he replaced the plaintiff's son with his own. The accused person pleaded not guilty, and the case also went for full trial. Counsel for the accused, lawyer Spiritus Ongo, pleaded with the court to deal leniently with his client since he's a first-time offender and also has aging parents. Justice Bafosona Japan, in ruling on the case, commended Detective Corporal Sheila Obuo for the intelligence displayed, which has helped the prosecution. Detective Corporal Sheila Obuo is now on transfer and with the Rasuman Police CID. The Wasegul Court judge recommended that due to her bravery, diligence, meticulous, and intelligence displayed in unraveling the truth, she should be promoted. The accused was therefore sentenced to 20 years imprisonment in hard labor. Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Good to see justice being served. Now, she became bedridden after one of her legs got swollen, a situation her mother describes as bizarre. 18-year-old Jennifer Ohima Kranting, who has been stuck to her bed for the past 4 years, had to drop out of school as a result of the condition. In the report filed by Beryl and Estina Richter, Jennifer says her dream of becoming a nurse is gradually fading away because of her situation.
Could bear the pain of my daughter, I'll gladly do that.
A mother's pain watching her daughter go through excruciating pains. That's the story of Georgina Sewa, whose 18-year-old daughter Jennifer Ohima Kranting has been bedridden. Jennifer was not born with a disability. However, what started as a sharp pain in her leg in 2017 would later result in her being confined to a bed.
I wanted to wake up, but I couldn't. I don't know what's happened again.
Because the family is broke, they have not even visited the hospital to seek medical diagnosis or treatment. Jennifer's mother says her daughter's condition is deteriorating.
Pastors administered anointing oil and salt till it developed into a wound.
She's unable to move on her own or do anything without her mother's help.
I cover the bed with a rubber when I have to bath her on the bed. When she has to ease herself, I wear her diapers. Whenever she's in great pains, I assure her that God is in control.
As the days elapse and Jennifer still remains tucked to her bed, the dream of becoming a nurse is gradually fading.
So I want to go to school again.
What do you think is preventing you?
My leg. I cry because I can't walk. My dream was to be a nurse.
Just like Jennifer, her mother is equally saddened.
She has been struck with this condition now. In fact, anytime I see her peers in school uniform, it saddens me.
Beryl and Estina Richter's report for Joy News.
Now, farmers and residents living along the waterways of the White Volta River in the northeast region are in a hurry to salvage their farm produce and evacuate ahead of the spillage of the Bagri Dam. The annual opening of the dam, which often coincides with heavy rains, always leaves a devastating trail of destruction in about 185 communities within the SADA zone, and with an estimated population of 200,000 people constantly at risk. The spillage last year caused the death of 13 people and destroyed several hectares of farm crops and other properties across the northeast region. Now, ahead of the exercise on Friday, some farmers in the West Mamprusi and Mamprugu Moduri districts say they are preparing for the worst. They complained about no assistance from the National Disaster Management Organization to help them evacuate. Let's look at this report.
The spillage is an annual occurrence where billions of gallons of water are released from the Bagri Dam. The waters are barreled dangerously into the tributaries of the White Volta River in the northern, northeast, upper east, and savannah regions, starting from Gbenku at Zebila, uprooting trees, turning farmlands into rivers, and forcing families to abandon their homes. The dam is mostly spilled around August and September each year, when it could no longer contain above its 235 meters depth. Around 13 people were killed in the region last year and over 2,000 forced to leave their homes due to floods caused by torrential rains and the opening of the dam. This year, operators of the dam on Tuesday issued an alert announcing the dam will be spilled between August 27 and 30. But even before the spillage could start, hundreds of farmlands in communities in the West Mamprusi and Mampurgu Mwaduri district, which are usually the hardest hit, are already submerged in floodwaters caused by weeks of torrential rains in the region. The situation has left some farmers and residents in panic. At Kunkwa and Pasinkwe, these desperate farmers, as part of preparations to move to higher grounds, were risking their lives using old canoes to salvage their drowning produce. We use canoe to salvage these crops. We are risking our lives because we have to feed our family. We stand in the water at neck level to harvest what we could. We have lost much already. At our neck level, we stand in the reptiles-infested water to pick up the crops. We are doing all this just to get something to eat. We are fighting to get something in our stomach. This is how we risk our lives every year. That is why you always hear people are drowned. Every year, people die in this community as a result of the spillage. For several decades every year, a combination of bad roads, incessant rain, and flooding along tributaries of the White Volta River completely cut the overseas communities from the rest of the region. About 4 people died in these 2 communities last year due to the twin occurrence of the dam spillage and heavy downpours. The farmers here, while bracing themselves for the looming catastrophe, are criticizing the National Disaster Management Organization for their poor handling of previous flooding situations. The NADMO officials always show up late when the harm has already been caused. Last year, for instance, we had evacuated all by ourselves before they came. We always expect NADMO officials to give us enough information ahead on how to escape the vagaries of the spillage. But they always wait and show up only after we are devastated by the incident.
Upper East Regional Correspondent Albert Sorry joins us via Zoom with more details. Now, Albert, we've been talking about this for days. Jerry Asamani, who is the head of NADMO in your region, has said that the flooding was actually expected to begin before tomorrow. Is there any indication that there will be flooding?
Well, normally when the dam is spilled in Burkina Faso, it takes a number of days before we start seeing the effect of it in the Upper East region. So for now, it will be difficult to tell. The problem is that we have had a number of rains in the Upper East region. Usually that is what compounds the situation when the Bagre Dam is spilled. The rains that we have here add up to the flood waters from Burkina Faso, and that is why we usually have serious flooding. Most people are only praying that we don't experience more rains in the coming days, because we had a lot of rains in the last 2 weeks. This week we haven't had so many rains, so we are hoping that we don't get rains, and hopefully we don't record serious floods like we did last year.
Now, we just heard from a number of farmers who are rushing to evacuate everything they can before the flooding begins, if it does. From what you've observed, have these farmers been able to move their things out?
Yes, so in Kwalugu, for instance, what happens is you have area is a slope. So where you have the basin of the White Volta is where you have the farms, and then the high lands is where you have the settlement. So the people go into the farms to do the farming and go home. And so for the coming days, what they are expected to do is to stay away from the farms because of the risk that will be involved when you go to the farm. There are those who have already managed to harvest something. The rest of them, their crops are not mature for them to even harvest. You have granite, which usually you have to harvest by uprooting the plant. They cannot harvest it because it is not time. So they're just hoping we don't get floods so that they can get the rest of their harvest this year.
Many thanks, Albert, for bringing us those updates. Let's move over to the Upper West region, where our correspondent Rafiq Salam joins us via Zoom. Now, Rafiq, we know that the Upper West region is also grappling with the effect of the rains that cut off these 3 roads earlier. It looks like the issues could be compounded with the Bagri Dam spillage.
Yeah, because if the Bagri Dam is spilled in the Upper West region, it will be something like a double agony for a double jeopardy for the people here, because they have to deal with their own floods that occurred in the region some 14 days ago. And so NADMO, some few weeks ago, started educating, sensitizing the people on the need to move to higher grounds.
Rafiq Salam there is our correspondent from the Upper West region. Apologies for the loss in the connection there. We will re-establish contact with him. But as you heard Rafiq say, the Upper West region has had its fair share of flash floods that have seen some major roads in the region cut off. Let's go back to Rafiq and get a full picture of what the situation is currently. So Rafiq, you were on the points, but we also want to know, how are the residents preparing for possible flooding?
NADMO some 2 weeks ago started sensitizing the people, educating them on the need to move to higher grounds. Remember, the Upper West region, when this Bagri Dam is filled, from those communities that are lying around the Black Water, they are the communities that are mostly affected. And so from Kokolugu up to somewhere around Bole Bomboy, you can count as many as 183 communities lying closer to the Black Water. In the Upper West region, we're having about 15 to 20 communities that are lying closer to the Black Water. And so NADMO, some few weeks ago, started the education, started sensitizing them, and I can report to you that as of this morning, there were some around Dipe, Kokolugu, and other areas, and they have moved all the people, they have evacuated them to higher lands. And so one thing good about the issues here is that the people, they are using the Black Water, they have their farms closer to the Black Water. So definitely what they do is that they have their farmhouses, they sleep there because of their farms. But now that they are talking about the spillage, NADMO has been able to speak to them, and they have moved to their communities, not closer to the Black Water.
Right.
So that's what's happening in the Upper West region now.
Now, again, after the initial flooding that cut off the roads, we learned that NADMO itself was struck by disaster because their warehouses storing relief items were cut off. Has this issue been resolved?
For NADMO, it was something like a double jeopardy for them, because as I speak to you now, NADMO was not able to move to some of the areas, some of the affected areas. A place like Charapong, Kunchin, and other areas that are closer to the Black Water, they were not able to have access to those communities. Even the initial assessment that NADMO did was based on the assembly members of those electoral areas who were able to give them the figures regarding the people that were affected by the floods. And so NADMO themselves actually have not been able to move to these communities because they themselves were cut out. Like you said, some of their warehouses, their main houses, is also located in the center of the region, and so somehow they were also cut off. And so NADMO, they have that challenge there.
Right.
But for now, they have been able to move because now that they have gotten roads that they can have a detour and easy access. They have moved to some of these communities, spoke to the people, and they have moved to higher grounds now.
Thank you very much, Rafiq Salam, for those updates. Now, crocodiles and other dangerous reptiles are straying into homes from floodwaters that have engulfed several communities at Timpani in the Garu-Timpani district of the Upper East region. This is according to the Member of Parliament for the area, Lady Lamisi Akanvariba. Torrential rains in that area have caused serious flooding over the past 3 weeks. Here's a report by correspondent Albert Sori. Back to you.
The floods have affected several communities including Gagbiri, Natinga, Bugri, Tariganga and Zambala. Acres of farmland have already been submerged and community access routes have been cut off following the overflow of Tamini Dam. Construction of the Tamini Dam began in 2016 to help irrigate about 3,250 acres of farmlands in the district and promote all year-round farming. The affected houses in the floods, according to the MP, were not considered to be at risk of being flooded before the construction of the dam.
The rising level of the water is affecting the wildlife that is in the dam site, and most of the houses have been infested with crocodiles, snakes, and all manner of reptiles that are in the water. We have an instance where a crocodile enters somebody's house and ate animals. If it's a human being, what do we do? So we are just appealing to the government and the engineers of this project to look at it again. They have resettled other people, but there are some few people that still need resettlement. If they could come and then resettle those that are also affected. Another issue we have to do is about their farmlands. Here, they are peasant farmers. They don't have enough. So if their crops have been affected, what do they have? We want to plead with the government, NADMO, civil society, government and non-governmental organizations to come to their aid. Because today we are looking at it, how much is affected. But the whole of the stretch from Gagbiri, Natenga to Gagbiri, Targanga and beyond, most of the farmers, their crops have been affected, have been submerged in the water. And we are pleading that if we don't solve the issue now, it's going to be that people are going to go hungry, and there will be hunger in this part of our constituency.
Residents of the affected communities have been speaking about the impact of the floods.
Actually, we are happy with the dam, but there are so many things that is also affecting us here. One, we have a road here linking to our capital, Garu, where our children passes for their education. That's where our biggest educations are. And the water has taken over the river. We can't cross there again. Initially, a motor king used to charge just 2 Ghana cedis from Gagbiri here to Garu through that short part. And now that the water has taken that route, we have to go and pass through Timpani to Garu, which is now costing us 8 Ghana cedis. So,
away from flooding, Vice President Dr. Mohammad Valmiya says the decision to clean the banking sector was painful but very necessary. According to him, data from the Bank of Ghana at that time indicated that the country's financial system was on the brink of total collapse, a situation he described as scary. The government, since the collapse of banks, has been criticized for the approach it adopted in dealing with the crisis. But the Vice President disagrees. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union's 11th Quadrennial Delegate Conference, Dr. Valmiya likened the mess in the banking sector to a cancer which needed to be cut off to halt a further spread.
It was so scary, I must tell you, and I can say that now because at that time, of course, we couldn't come out to say the banks were about to collapse, but we were probably days away. It was that scary when the governor presented the state of the banking system and how it was worsening. And you had already started seeing in some savings and loans companies and some microfinance companies. Some had shut down. And some were not paying. A customer will go and ask for their deposit and they will say, go and come back. And we were teetering on the brink of a collapse of the entire system. Because once you start a run on one bank, then the entire system goes. And that was what we faced. It was a very scary prospect. The decision to clean up the financial sector was painful, but had to be undertaken. It is one thing to recognize the problem, and many people recognize the problem. In fact, the previous government, as Brother Solomon Kote said, recognized the problem. But it takes courage to tackle the problem. After all, government is not elected to make easy decisions. It is the hard decisions that often distinguish a good government from a not so good government. In the end, we saved the banking system and the bigger financial system and safeguarded the hard-earned lifetime investments of 4.6 million depositors, many of whom are workers. We would have had a collapse, and this economy would not have recovered that easily.
Now, the General Secretary of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, Solomon Kote, believes the approach was not well thought through. He insisted persons who were affected in the cleanup exercise are still struggling to find their feet.
And then the approach they took, you woke up one morning, you go to office, your office is locked, they say go home. So assuming you are going to take money from there to go and help your ailing mother, it's gone with it.
The Vice President is clear that it was a necessary thing that they had to do.
Well, he said it was necessary.
He likened it to cancer. If you leave it, it will spread and destroy you.
Well, then where is the health we have gained after that operation? If it's cancer and you operate me, then I have life to live. But people are still suffering. This is the matter. When this exercise took place to date, most workers have not found their rhythm. Those who love their jobs haven't found alternative. Is it cleansing to create job, or is this cleansing to just say that we have just sanitized and we've taken out the bad notes and that is the end of the road?
So it is not enough to say it was a cancer was treating it?
No, we're looking for that. If it's a cancer that is treated, do we have another medicine again that if cancer raises its head, it can be cured? Because we expected him in this forum to let us know more what has been the banking policy in regard to such proliferation of microfinance companies and then banks that got opened without the proper regulation. What then goes into it? We were expecting to let us also know whether those who did or created the mess have been brought before the court of law to be punished. Because the huge monies that government use in paying these workers is your tax money, is my tax money. So we're looking forward what lessons have been learned.
He provides some explanation. Satisfactory for you?
No, those ones you heard my rebuttal. My rebuttal was that you are paying them, okay, but you pay them at the time that they were not ready to leave jobs. So loans they have were all deducted at go, and therefore there's nothing left in their hands to go. You have paid me, but the money you paid me, I was having loans around myself. These are bankers, so most of them take loans to buy cars, etc., etc. So the monies you are paying, you recover, the indebtedness of the individual, and it left them with nothing.
So some politics now, and the governing New Patriotic Party NPP says if the NDC is serious about electoral reforms, it must submit its proposals to IPAC for discussion and approvals where necessary. The NDC has presented 34 proposals for electoral reforms as the country moves towards 2024. But speaking at a press conference in Accra today, NPP General Secretary John Boadu charged the NDC to use the appropriate forum to place their proposals, arguing the party was only engaged in a face-saving activity.
Mama and his NDC have no shame. After disrespecting and damning the EC and its leadership throughout the electionary campaign, they have the gut to call on the EC to undertake electoral reforms, even after refusing to attend the opportune platform provided by the EC for all political parties to meet and undertake a review of the conduct of the 2020 elections. The MPP has said, and we're going to repeat, that we are not going to dignify their so-called proposals for electoral reforms by responding to them in the media. The media, as well as the international community, cannot be the right forum for such an exercise. We are a disciplined political party and respect rules. We do not play to the gallery. We are a serious political party, and so if the NDC is serious about their demands for electoral reforms, they should table it at the right forum, which is IPAC. But if, on the other hand, they think that the media can undertake reforms they are calling for, then they should go ahead with their rantings in the media space. We are not going to debate in their own turf. They should be honorable enough and come back to the table for civilized discussion and debate. The MPP has always believed in the electoral reforms. And if we are to go through some of the reforms that they've put out, you just know that it is just face-saving things that they have put out.
Now, John Boadu noted that the party's position on the NDC reforms is not because they do not support reforms, but because they believe the NDC failed to utilize an opportunity granted by the EC to political parties and other stakeholders to discuss the reforms.
The NPP is proud of its record in supporting the continued transformation of elections in Ghana towards more transparent and fairness. However, the NPP has always tried to act within the rules in pushing for changes. Let the NDC be advised to swallow their arrogance and get down from its high horse, accept the loss of the 20 elections, gracefully come back and participate within IPAC so as to add their voices, if any, to the transformation and reforms of our elections.
Meanwhile, the NPP has criticized former President Mohammad for seeking to paint the NPP government with a brush of corruption. The former president on his thank you tour has labeled this administration as corrupt, urging Ghanaians to vote the party out so that the next government can hold them accountable. But John Boadu says John Mohammad has no moral right to speak about issues of corruption.
On corruption, former President Mohammad has said without proof that the NPP has stolen Ghana's money and that he can ensure accountability through elections. This is extremely rich, coming from a party credited with the Supreme Court of Ghana, with the ability to create, loot, and share public funds with impunity. Is Mama of Government Official 1 infamy and the Ford vehicle from Canezo contractors talking about corruption? Is that the same Mama whose government signed into a half-baked contract of $1.6 billion for the Ghana retail payment system infrastructure? Sifting Switch Systems Limited have just lost an arbitration demand for $478 million from Ghana for revoking that agreement. The Aqua administration did a far more enhanced project for only $4.2 million.
And coming up later on Joy News Prime, the guts to pound fufu on the Pokwasi interchange. Ghana is indeed a free country. Well, the fufu pounders have been granted bail.
A 60-year-old man and a daughter were arrested. They have been processed and bailed to come back for further investigation.
Later in business, banks and financial institutions lose 25 million cedis to spike in fraud cases last year. Latest data from the Bank of Ghana shows a total value of reported fraud cases hit 1 billion cedis.
The issue of fraud, and especially what is being reported by BOG, has got to do with more of the operational side of the bank. And that has got to do with the internal control system that BOGs may have set up.
Yeah, welcome to Business. I'm Charles I.J. Banking and finance expert Dr. Benjamin Amoah has attributed the surge in reported cases of fraud in Ghana's banking industry to weakness in internal control systems. The latest Bank of Ghana report revealed that the total value of reported cases hit 1 billion cedis last year, as compared to 115 million cedis in 2019. We'll hear from Dr. Amoah shortly, but of course, first though, here's a report from my colleague George Rafi.
Reports show that the increase was as a result of what the Bank of Ghana describes as notable increase in high values of attempted correspondent fraud. It again showed that there was significant increase of staff involvement in fraud cases, especially when it came to suppression of cash. These staff accounted for 56% of the fraud cases and 93% of the reported cash suppression. The Bank of Ghana was where the data recovered over the years showed a persistent trend of staff involvement in these fraud cases, despite numerous notices of caution sounded out to the banking industry in almost every fraud report issued since 2017. The total number of fraud cases reported for last year stood at 2,608 compared to 2,311 fraud cases reported in 2019. Representing almost 13% increase. Fraudulent withdrawals came up as the second most reported case after the suppression of cash. The Bank of Ghana argues that the high involvement of staff in these fraud cases can be attributed to the absence of corporate governance structures in some sections in the banking industry, resulting in the lack of accountability and transparency in their activities.
Now, banks and financial institutions lost 25 million cedis from the spike in fraud cases last year, according to data from the Bank of Ghana. Earlier on the marketplace, banking and finance expert Dr. Benjamin Amoah spoke to me, saying that there are some profit solutions, including scrutinizing third-party providers.
On the broad sense, bring in the issue of corporate governance. But then the issue of fraud, and especially what is being reported by BOG, has got to do with more of the operational side of the bank. And that has got to do with the weakness in the internal control system that these institutions may have set up. The controls are supposed to check the behavior of the officers of the bank. And if these internal control systems are lax, then you will have the officers of the bank getting themselves into some of these wrong behavior. So yes, there is corporate governance as the big thing, but then if you want to deal directly with it now, they have to look more into the internal control system that these banks have and how effective these internal control systems are performing as expected. Now, banking is becoming more of open banking now, where third-party service providers are now getting into the mainstream banking system infrastructure to provide some level of service or support. Now, what is happening is that if you have third parties also contributing to the service delivery, they don't get active from the bank's point of view. You must as well also as a regulator look at what these third party service providers are providing, so that when you are building the firewalls are not just to the banks, but you extend it to the third-party service providers like the fintech companies that now have direct or indirect access into the database of these banks, into the system of the banks. Right. So they're going to have an end-to-end full value chain firewalls in the system. If not, a bank will be okay by way of internal controls, but a service provider, a third-party service provider may have weak control system that these fraudsters can then use to attack the bank from their point of view. So it's about the entire ecosystem being tightened up so that the fraudsters cannot have any avenue to penetrate into the banking system.
And that'll be it for business. We have sports coming up next. Do stay.
Time to bring you sports here on Joy News Prime. My name is Hans Mensah Andor, and the Premier League champions Manchester City have been drawn to face Paris Saint-Germain, RB Leipzig and Club Brugge in the Champions League group stage. Holders Chelsea come up against Serie A giant Juventus, Russian club Zenit St. Petersburg and Swedish side Malmo. Manchester United, they face Villarreal, who beat them in last season's Europa League final as well as Italian club Atalanta and Swiss side Young Boys. Liverpool are also in a tough group with Atletico Madrid, FC Porto, and AC Milan. And these are the 8 groups in detail. And as you can see there, Group E. Well, let's start from Group A. Manchester City, Paris Saint-Germain. That is one fixture to look forward to. RB Leipzig and Club Brugge completing Group A. Atletico Madrid and Liverpool, as well as FC Porto and AC Milan, make up Group B. Group C has Sporting Lisbon, Borussia Dortmund, Ajax, and Besiktas. Group D has Inter Milan, Real Madrid, Shakhtar Donetsk, and Sheriff Tiraspol. Group E has German giant Bayern München, Barcelona, Benfica, and Dynamo Kiev. Group F has Villarreal, Manchester United, Atalanta, and Young Boys. Group G has Lille, Sevilla, Salzburg, and Wolfsburg. And Group H holders Chelsea will take on Juventus, Zenit St. Petersburg, and Malmo. So those are the groups. And of course, the best performing players and of course coach were awarded also at this draw. And let's take a look as Jorginho emerged the UEFA Men's Player of the Year. So, goalkeeper of the season, Edward Mendy, 9 clean sheets from 12 matches, walks away with the top prize of the goalkeeper of the season. Ruben Diaz of Manchester City is a defender of the season, as he helped Man City all the way to the final of the Champions League. N'Golo Kante rocked up the man of the match awards from the quarter-final stage all through to the final, and ends up with a midfielder of the season award, beating Kevin De Bruyne and Jorginho. And forward of the season is a youngster, Erling Braut Haaland of Borussia Dortmund. And of course, the men's player of the year, Jorginho of Chelsea, also won the European Championship with Italy and won the UEFA Super Cup as well with Chelsea. What a season the Italian midfielder has had. Thomas Tuchel took over midway through last season and guided Chelsea all the way to the final of the Champions League and won it. They look strong this season as they aim to defend their UEFA Champions League title. Now let's come back home. And former coach of Kumasi, Asante Kotoko, and currently director of football at the Right to Dream Academy, Masao Didi Dramani, has urged fans of Accra Hearts of Oak to lower their expectations as they begin their CAF Champions League campaign.
The Phobians return to the continent's interclub competition for the first time in 6 years after winning the 2020-2021 Ghana Premier League. Fans of the Oak family are confident the success of the team in the just ended season. 1. They won the double. The Premier League and the FA Cup is a testament of their quality to compete against the best. But Didi, who led Asante Kotoko to the competition twice between 2013 and 2015, wants the fans to tone down on their expectations of the team, saying the current team is not as good as the early 2000s.
Hearts were able to do it in Africa when they successively won the Premier League and then successively went into Africa. So they were being eliminated, time and again, and then they were closer, they missed, and then they were finally there. They were very unbeatable in 2000, and so you cannot match that one to what is today. But I believe that they can with the energy level, they will be able to try to create an impact. But they have to be very modest in their expectation.
Didi, who confessed his love for the club, advised that they plan strategically for the competition.
Hearts is my childhood club. Yeah, I love Hearts. It's all about preparation again, and preparation in football is the objectives you set. If you begin to set objective of going to win, then already you have put yourself to a certain level. You need to set strategically, and then be able to make an impact. When you are able to make an impact, I think that it makes more sense.
Hearts of Oak won the CAF Champions League in 2000, beating Esperance in the final.
And that's it for now. More sports a bit later in the bulletin.
And Noella Cariniali is in studio with us to bring us the latest in
right.
showbiz.
Hi, Daniel.
Hi,
You're
Noella.
looking suave. I love what you're wearing.
Thank you very much. I like the thing on your thing.
I know.
It's very thingy.
Yeah? You love it. I know.
It's working. It's so working.
Right. So let's begin with Stonebwoy. You know, the conversation around the seeming poor royalty system in Ghana has become a chorus to a song almost every musician in Ghana is singing along to. I mean, I've had conversations with musicians and they all seem to agree that the system here is poor. But oftentimes or not, the conversation is had and then it dies down. But Stonebwoy has resurrected that conversation. He's currently in the UK. He paid a courtesy call to the Ghana's High Commissioner to the UK, Papa Ankoma, and told him that ever since he became a musician, he's only received an amount of 2,000 Ghana cedis as royalties.
They don't pay. I'm saying it on camera. This is Stonebwoy. I'm telling you. The amount I've ever gotten from making music as royalties, however, from Ghana is 2,000 cedis. I'm being honest, and I swear on the name.
A lot of other artists are getting.
A lot of other artists.
No, but what about all these songs that your songs that they are being played almost every minute?
I'm being honest. Put me to it and let's have this conversation. It's there. The conversation is big in Ghana anyway. They know, but among some of our people who think it should be done already, they don't put their minds over it. I'm telling you. The check I've ever cut is 2,000 Ghana cedis from Ghana.
Oh, but that's serious.
Making music its own. I'm not supposed to. For instance, it's not by force to go on the road and tour and perform. Those are subsidiary income. But for the creative material that zero.
You know, Papa is looking big. Papa Osankuma is looking big.
Yeah?
The Ghana High Commissioner.
I'm sure he wouldn't. He'll take an exception to that comment.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was my neighbor once in Takrady, in Bolin Second D.
Oh,
because I lived in this constituency.
Oh, I see. But yeah, like I said, Stonebwoy has once again resurrected that conversation, and so the coming days we'll see how that conversation would turn out. But let's also talk about Noble Nketia. Now, over the weekend on Showbiz A to Z on Joy 99.7 FM, a conversation was had around venturing into gospel music and whether or not patrons who want to do gospel should go into that sector purely business-minded, or they should actually wait for a calling from God. And the likes of Celestine Donko was on the show, and she spoke about how it should be a fusion of both, and her colleague MOG also agreed to that, but had some other reservations. But my colleague Ibrahim Bedbako caught up with Noble Nketia, and he has been also sharing his thoughts on that topic.
They don't see it as business. They don't also see the need for them to also support what we're doing. Some understand, but most people don't really know that it takes a lot to be able to maintain what you're doing and to maintain yourself, and also to be more relevant in the field that you are in. And I believe that if that message should be sent across. Now, there's one thing doing ministry, and another thing also having the finance or the resources to sustain yourself to do what you do. If the other side is lacking, then you wouldn't be able to be effective. So our people, let me say the Christian fraternity, need to understand that what we do requires resources, and the resources has to come from them, definitely. So if the support is not coming, it's going to be difficult for us to function as much as we need to function.
You have been inactive for some time.
Yeah.
What is it? Is it marriage that has taken you away?
Well, it's not marriage. Okay. I think it has to do more with managerial aspect. Now, those days when we started, there were so many promoters around, or record labels that were pushing, like Ajuku, like Big Band, Bandes, His Majesty Music. Now they are all not there, So now to have the people to really understand you, to know the gift that you have, and to also support what you do is very difficult. Everything has become personal, you have to do it. And with what we do, you need all the time. But then if you have to be the one doing this and still have to be the person that's going out there to search, to get money to do it, then there's some slacking somewhere. So it's not making it. So honestly, there's a lot we need to do to be very vibrant and to be continues to be on relevant.
I don't know what you think about this gospel thing, but what I think is...
I think it should be a fusion of both.
Yeah, because it's a calling.
Yeah, it's a calling.
But, I mean, you know, even Jesus Christ had someone who kept his money for him.
Right.
Yeah, except that the one interested in the money was Judas Iscariot.
I see. Anyway, let's talk about something really bizarre, a challenge that's really bizarre and weird that's going on social media, but yet a lot of people have been jumping on that trend and for taking it. I'm talking about the Create Challenge. I mean, all around the world, it's crazy. I don't know how this started. I just know that rapper Snoop Dogg first posted this challenge and it just blew out. And a lot of people have been partaking in it. And, you know, it's actually not easy. You know, you're actually supposed to...
Is that, look, Noella, I think that if you really give yourself like some concentration...
man. So,
I know, but it actually looks like something we could do.
Of course, we will do it. I mean, a Ghanaian man, first of all, has successfully partaken in the challenge, and you know he did unscathed, and I brought you excerpts of that. Let's take a look.
Akasa Betino, ofu we always see her. Ah, right under. But that's we representing.
So, viewers, we have a surprise for you. We've got in the studio with us a little friend, and Daniel's going to do us the honors of, you know...
Is it for me to climb?
Yeah, it's for you to actually... No. Let's see you do it.
One.
Let's see you do it. Okay, go in one.
So I'm supposed to get
you're supposed to, exactly.
Charlie, but are you sure the thing will break me? I eat a lot of fufu. So that don't mean I've won the crate challenge.
So you won the challenge, you successfully completed the challenge.
I'll finish the bulletin on the crate. So that's it for showbiz.
Yeah, that's it. That should be all for showbiz, guys. We hope you enjoyed our challenge, but we won. We did it successfully without, you know, hurting ourselves. So yeah, Daniel, that'd be all for showbiz.
We would have arranged more crates. We just don't have time.
Of course.
You know? Yeah. All right. Thanks very much, Noella, for bringing us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, then. You're still live on Joy News Prime. Stay with us. There's a lot more coming up. Welcome back to Joy News Prime. And yes, I finally got off the crate. Let's get to some other stories. And construction of the National Cathedral has received a boost with 50,000 cedi contribution from the National Chief Imam, Sheikh Nuhu Sharabutu. Now, he is hopeful that the money will facilitate the speedy construction of the national edifice, which is also expected to be a tourism earner for the country. Board Chair of the National Cathedral Committee, Apostle Professor Opoko Yina, was excited about the rare move by the Chief Imam, adding this should be an example for all faiths to emulate. Hano Dame has more.
This rare move, according to the Chief Imam, was made with hopes that it will facilitate the speedy construction of the national edifice. He spoke through an interpreter.
When we want to commission our mosque, we commissioned it together, Muslims and Christians.
Amen.
So one day, as come, we reciprocate. In this regard, I also will do some symbolic or token, contribution. In my view, this will further strengthen the solidarity and goodwill between Muslims and Christians.
Board chair of the project, Apostle Dr. Opoku Onyina, was hopeful the gesture will be emulated by people of all faiths.
We are overwhelmed and lost of words. This is not a small thing at all. It's a big something that is very, very big. It's great. And I think many people, including Christians and Muslims, are going to follow what he has done.
Dr. Onyina also urged those criticizing the construction of the project to conduct further research to know how it will benefit the country when completed.
I know that they have not understood it, and that is why they are talking about it. But if you haven't understood something, it's better to keep quiet, make research into it, understand it before you speak. Otherwise, we lose our value as Christians.
The board chair was hopeful that 1 million people will contribute at least 100 cedis a month consistently for a year, which will be enough funding for the construction of the project.
On the 5th of September, all the pastors in Accra, their spouses, and Christian leaders are meeting at the oil dome of the Royal House Chapel to launch our fundraising strategies in order that we'll be able to put up the National Cathedral. Maybe not everybody will get 100 Ghana cedis a month, but for estimate purpose, budgetary purpose, we are saying that if you are able to give a minimum of 100 Ghana cedis, even if you are able to do it within 1 year, you will get enough money to put it.
For Joy News, I am Hannah Odami.
Now, the families of the late Abdul Nasir Yusuf and Murtala Mohammad want the government to make public the Justice Kumsin Committee of Inquiry report into the Ejura incidents. According to them, the content of the report will help them appreciate what's transpired during the committee's sitting. The families say they don't want to trust public hearsay. A report by Mohammad Nuruddin.
We only saw and hear from the media houses that they've come out with the report with some recommendations. One of the recommendations was they should sack out the MCE of Ejura Municipal Assembly, and which the MCE has already written a resignation letter that he was no more interested in that position because he wanted peace to reign, which we clap for it.
Abdullah Abubakar is the family head of the late Abdul Nasir Yusuf, one of the two shot dead in the Ejura incident. He doubts the committee's report would be fair. He has his own expectations on how the matter should have been handled.
I told them that if they wanted justice and fair report from the commission, they should have taken the case to the parliament where everybody is involved. There are oppositions there, the ruling party is there. The opposition party will not agree for the ruling party to cheat them. The ruling party will not agree for the opposition to cheat them. They will do a good investigation and the report will be respected.
Mr. Abubakar wants justice served. Mohammad Awal Misbao in his clutches. About 2 months ago, the 16-year-old was fit and strong. But now he needs support because his right leg was amputated as a result of gunshot injury sustained in the Ejura incident. Salamat Mohammad is the mother.
Today, Awal is physically challenged. We have spent over 40,000 cedis paying his medical bills. We also pay 100 cedis every 2 days for his treatment.
At least yo, kafangama ngaka wanke shi 2 days. 1 million haka hospital suke ansa. Gachi da sha.
Salamatu also wants the government to ensure the committee's report is made public.
Bamunji komai kan batun community ba. Gwamnati saboda Allah ka tashi kan wannan magana.
We heard nothing about the committee's report. The president should take a look at that. Awal Bismawu is your grandson, and it was your son, a soldier, who shot at him. Now he's down to one leg. We don't know what the committee did.
Amma yau gashi an bar shi da kafa guda. kuma tun da muka fita hospital muka zo gida ba wani babban da ya zo nan shaidan yan jaridan ga da ke kokari suna zuwa nan
report da kuma manfani no
Alhaji Omar Al-Hassan is the Dagomba chief of Ejura and grandfather of Muntala Mohammad, who was also shot dead during the incident. He recounts what happened when the committee visited him and his advice to help unravel the truth.
It would be unfair if I claimed the report had favored me or otherwise, because the report has already been submitted to the president, but I have not received any feedback and I cannot respond to anything at this moment. It will be difficult for me to react. I ask that the report submitted to the president be publicized for the whole country to know the truth in the report.
The Justice Commission Committee of Inquiry into the Ejura incident submitted its report to the Interior Minister weeks ago, but the details of the report and recommendations are yet to be made public. A report by Mohammad Nuruddin.
Our polling station executives.
Now, the latest road safety report by the Aqua Metropolitan Assembly reveals an alarming increase in the number of head injuries from motorcycle accidents in the Accra metropolis. The report links the injuries directly to the improper use of helmets by motorcycle riders and their passengers. The Assembly, working with the National Road Safety Authority, says they plan to engage riders on the safe use of the roads to reduce crashes. Judith Orchitando has more.
Every month, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital records an average of 102 road crash injuries, amongst which are head injuries. Records from the hospital showed that a number of 168 head injuries were recorded between the months of September and December last year. Emmanuel Ahiable is an emergency medicine specialist at the hospital.
So we try to tease out head injuries associated crashes. So from the chart here, you can see that head injuries are classified as mild, moderate, and severe. So we had 86 of those who were involved in RTA and all crashes having mild injuries. And we didn't record any mortality. Then if you look at the moderate head injury, about 48 of them sustained moderate head injuries. And 3 of them, we lost 3 of them. And the severe head injury, which is more fatal, 34 of them, and 11, we lost 11. So in total, 168 head injuries.
While authorities strive to reduce road crashes in the city, overspeeding has proven to be a major challenge. Mayor of Accra, Mohammad Ejesoa, explains the AMA is working together with the police MTTD to enforce the use of speed limits designated on our roads.
It is an undeniable fact that despite the efforts that we have made in reducing the overspeeding, it is still a big issue for us within the city of Accra, and the #1 killer that I have observed. Together with the MTTD, we are waging war against overspeeding in Accra.
The report also highlighted a decline in the correct use of helmets among motorcycle riders. It dropped from 75% to 69% between 2019 and 2020. Similarly, the rate of correctly worn helmets amongst passengers on motorcycles dropped from 45% in 2019 to 25% in 2020. This data, according to the AMA, links to the increasing number of head injuries experienced within our hospitals. Director General of the National Road Safety Authority, Mayor Briebois, however, says the NRSA is working to increase education on the proper use of the helmet.
I think for us, that is where education sensitization comes in, and very much in our domain. And so this statistics has even given us more information for us to be able to prove to them. And we've been having programs for them. The DVLA right now is also coming out with some instructors who will be trained to be able to also train the motorcycle. So we will use that opportunity as part of the modules for them to know how to wear the helmets.
Judith Awachitando, Joy News.
Now, 41-year-old Isa Shaibu, bond driver, has died on the spot in a vehicle crash. His bus collided with a cargo truck at Buipe in the central Gonja district of the Savannah region. Two others, a driver's mate known as Ganiu and another driver of the cargo truck, Al-Hassan Abdul Mumuni, sustained serious injuries. The injured, who were first rushed to the Buipe Polyclinic, are now in critical condition at the Tamale Teaching Hospital in the northern region. Meanwhile, the driver mate of the Benz cargo truck, Abdul Nashiru Mumin, escaped unhurt. His soul rests in peace, and the Wildlife Division of the Forestry Commission has confirmed the killing of two elephants by the residents of Bintri in the East Mamprushi district of the Northeast region. The division said the elephants were attacked and killed on Wednesday in retaliation for the death of a farmer who was trampled to death at Yankazia. Regional Manager in charge of the 5 regions in the North Wildlife Division of Forestry Commission, Joseph Binlila, speaking to Joy News after returning from the scene, said the residents shared the carcasses among themselves after killing the animals. He's however urging the police to help retrieve the tusks while appealing to the residents to voluntarily hand them over to the state.
This is a graphic scene from the aftermath of the killing of 2 elephants by an angry mob at Bentiri near Nalirgu in the East Mamprusi municipality. The elephants were drifting from the Upper East region into the Northeast region, in the process killing a farmer who was trying to capture them onto his mobile phone. This angered the residents to pour out with various weapons and kill the elephant after a long pursuit. Regional Manager of the Wildlife Division, Justice Benlila, led a team overnight to visit the scene.
The findings are that, yes, it's true. An elephant has killed a farmer by name Fusini Udana. And so once it happened that way, it's an unfortunate situation. This is not what we expected to happen. We are not conserving biodiversity or wild animals for them to kill human beings so we survive on it. No, we want to equally share the ecosystem with them. But unfortunately, this farmer, we are told, in an attempt to see the elephants, went too close to the elephant, the range of the elephant. With a camera to take photos of it, and then flashing as well. And so the elephant charged on him and trampled him to death. And so when it happened, the other people who were together with him watching the elephants ran helter-skelter for their lives, and then mobilized themselves with weapons, arrows, bows and arrows, and came back and tried to follow after the 3 elephants, and eventually, unfortunately, the information is that they sadly killed 2 of the elephants.
Now, the 60-year-old man and his daughter arrested for allegedly operating an eatery, locally known as a chop bar on the pavement of the newly constructed Pokwase interchange, have been granted bail. Kwame Ado, the operator of the chop bar, and his 32-year-old daughter, Comfort Date, were picked up on Wednesday. They were arrested after a video of the man pounding fufu at their establishment went viral. Now, in the video, a man and woman are seen pounding the fufu by the recently outdoored interchange, with many social media users condemning them for indiscipline. Acting Director of Public Affairs of the Ghana Police Service, Superintendent Alexander Obing, says the 2 will report for further investigations.
A man and a daughter were arrested by Regional Police Commandant for committing those nuisances. They have been processed and bailed to come back for further investigation. So it is true. What is worrying about it their behavior is that where they were found is a pedestrian walkway on the Pukwasi interchange, and during night they deploy their booking words on a public thoroughfare and turn the place into a shop bar and do all manner of things, and it's this reason that led to the arrest and subsequent processing among others. So they are known.
Have they been charged?
They have been, as I said, arrested, and the investigation is ongoing.
Right.
And they were able to reappear at the Accra Regional Police Command for further investigation.
Now, have you recently been noticing a reduction in your mobile money account without any transaction? Do you have a high level of data usage? Perhaps your phone has been attacked by a dangerous Android phone virus known as the Joker virus. Our in-house IT analyst Kwabna Nkrumah discusses apps that are affected by this virus.
Last year, 2020, about 1,700 apps were removed from the Play Store.
Wow.
Which were either suspected malicious activities, or some of them were using a technique called versioning. So they would upload the legal or the clean version of the app, which has no virus, and then subsequently upload an update that actually has the Trojan. So when you download it, it's clean. Google Play services and the Play Protect service, which basically checks your phone to make sure any app you're downloading is not infected, will check and realize, oh, it's fine. But then when it gets to the updates, then they put it in there, you download the update, and then now you have the Joker virus on your phone. The most important thing is for the user to be educated, which is something that we're doing now.
Right.
So a lot of times we tell people, oh, go for the apps that have the best ratings on the store. But these guys have a way of boosting their ratings on the Play Store by faking good reviews, which push the negative reviews down. So you might see that, oh, this app has a bad review, is bad. You've experienced it, you go give a bad review. They would come in and post about 50 good reviews that pushes your bad review down.
Right.
So the best thing is to go for apps developed by known developers.
Now let's move on to solutions. We engage global security or cybersecurity experts, Dr. Kester Quist Apeche, on how to protect yourself from being attacked.
We'll have to opt for options where they have to use different emails for the verification of transactions. In that case, it will be very difficult for the Joker virus to have access to some of the emails on their phones. And that will make it very difficult. But if you have SMS, because different applications have access to SMS messages on your phone, it is easy for them to read from those SMS messages and use it to authenticate the transactions. And also, I think various banking institutions will also need to, and fintech will also need to come out with different levels of verification that will make it very difficult for such self-automating processes to take place. But one of the interesting things is that when you try to make security more tough, you try to create some degree of inconvenience for the users. So I think there should be option for users to opt for that, and that will make it much more easier for them, because within the hacking community also, we have other hackers also that provide information as to how they will have to improve those kind of applications. And then we also develop different approaches and advise secure programming in terms of how to develop certain applications to make it much more secure. So for users, the best thing is that using SMS for the verification, that option can be opted out, and then you can stick to emails when you are subscribing for things that have to do with the engaging your mobile application, and I think that will make it much secure. But when you are on the website doing transactions, you can also opt for the SMS, because it's very difficult for such messages to also to be sent to the web. So it's easy for you to authenticate web transactions using your
a mobile phone, and also easy to authenticate your mobile phone transactions with the web applications. In that case, it makes it much more secure for you for now.
Live on Joy News Prime with me, Daniel Daze. Up next is business. Yeah, welcome back to business. The Ghana Tourism Authority has initiated its domestic tourism agenda through the deployment of roofless coaches. Now, these coaches will serve as transportation for tourists in Accra to explore some historic sites in the regional capital. It comes as Ghana lost $3 billion to the COVID-19, which locked away tourists from reveling. Jones Aruna Nelson is head of PR for the Ghana Tourism Authority.
It's part of the promotion that we started. So in terms of domestic tourism, we are encouraging Ghanaians to travel, to take a tour, take a holiday. You realize that the average Ghanaian hardly travels except attending funerals or going for parties and anniversaries. So what we want to achieve is this. One of the ways that we are using to promote domestic tour is city tour. So as we embark on this city tour, we are saying that at least in the region that you live in, you need to know about one or two attractions. So as we go around the historical and cultural places as well as iconic structures in the metropolis, we are telling our fellow Ghanaians that, look, we have these monuments very important for you to know. And when you know, you can also educate your other colleagues, and then we'll all come on board. Of course, this has come as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, which hit the tourism industry, very hard. And the numbers for international, figures, it dwindled if you look at 2019 to 2020. So we are saying that the way forward is domestic tourism. Of course, if you go to other countries like Asia and the rest, you realize that domestic tourism is their backbone.
All right, so, what remains the routes that you're going to be applying this morning? Which routes are you going to be applying?
Sure, we have an approved route. So from here at the Accra Tourist Information Center, we'll go through Kentakita, you are exchange here, through the police headquarters, down, then we'll go through Oxford Street. From there, we hit Osu Presby, then we meander our way through the Stadium Road, then we go through Lotteries, Bank of Ghana, Wesley Church, down there, and then we meander our way as well to fire service through Jamestown. Of course, when we get to Jamestown, there are exciting scenes, historical and cultural places that we'll have to visit. So at Jamestown, we'll do a stopover and do a tour of the Jamestown. We have site guides on board. And then we'll pass through the art center. Briefly, we'll drive through we'll come back to Mokola, the law school area, of which we'll do we'll be going slowly for people to attract. We also attract them. We tell them about the fact that, look, the city tour is very, very interesting and that you need to be on board. And then from there, we'll come straight back to Attic here. Yeah.
About 90 small and medium-scale enterprises will soon benefit from a training project under the Sustaining Competitive and Responsible Enterprises Corps of the International Labour Organization, ILO. Now, the program is being implemented and managed by the Development and Productivity Institute with support from Invest for Jobs and the ILO. It is aimed at boosting growth and productivity of SMEs in order to create jobs. Here's more.
Those small and medium-scale enterprises in Ghana represent about 85% of businesses, largely within the private sector, and contribute about 70% of Ghana's gross domestic product. They are faced with numerous challenges like high interest rates, among others. In view of this, to promote enterprise competitiveness and sustainable jobs for SMEs, the Management, Development and Productivity Institute, with support from Invest for Jobs, an initiative by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, has launched the Sustaining Competitive and Responsible Enterprises Training Program. Addressing stakeholders, team leader of Invest for Jobs, John Duty, expressed his excitement about the strong partnership with MDPI and ILO in jointly achieving the set objectives.
Ghana government signed up to this project that will create 10,000 decent jobs. 10,000. And ensure that 18,000 people have improved working conditions. These figures may sound very low, but ILO definitions on what is called a decent job makes these figures huge.
The national coordinator for the ILO in Ghana, Samuel Asiedu, explained that there is high expectations of the collaboration with the MDPI.
We've had many successful development cooperation projects in Ghana and globally. So we have high expectations of this collaboration with MDPI. We believe the MDPI will show leadership and work seamlessly with other implementing partners. And I mentioned them earlier: Score Trading Solutions Ghana, Sekendi Takrady Chamber of Commerce and Industries, and Hoku Consult, to implement this project successfully.
The project, when completed, will also equip the SMEs to meet international requirements.
Chief Executive of the Private Enterprise Federation, Nana Bonsu, has called for more investment in renewable energy since its residue will aim firms in the agri sector to compete in the African Continental Free Trade Area. According to him, leftovers from non-conventional use of renewable energy can be used as compost to boost agri production. He was speaking at the Private Sector Climate Change Investment Forum.
Research conducted by the Ghana Statistical Service shows that only 1 out of 4 agribusinesses in Ghana are aware of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. Meanwhile, the Chief Executive of Private Enterprises Federation, Nana Bonsu, says investing in renewable energy will empower agri firms to compete in AFTA. According to him, residue from renewable energy can be transformed into compost to boost production.
As companies seek to expand their operations through industrialization, they require more sustainable and reliable power at competitive pricing. The way to go is the use of non-conventional renewable energy, such as biomass, solar energy, wind energy, hydro, and others. These sources of energy are cheaper, environmentally friendly, sustainable, and supportive of green climate initiatives. These energy sources and their residual raw materials like compost will boost agriculture productivity, create jobs, especially for the youth and women, increase revenue for the private sector players, and reduce the negative ecological impact as a result of human activities. With cheaper energy and the consequential benefit from the waste that we generate from industries, we can add value to agricultural products, thereby helping our agribusinesses to compete well in the arena of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area.
Head of Climate and Economic Strategy and Research Division at the Ministry of Finance, Adjoa Feku, disclosed that $107 million have been approved to invest in climate in Ghana.
Ghana, since joining the GCF, has submitted about 18 proposals, both from the private sector and the public sector as well. Out of the 18 proposals, 9 has been approved, and the 9 still awaiting approval. So in total, we have received about $107 million in approval. Notably among the proposals is the Program on Affirmative Finance Action for Women in Africa, Financing Climate Resilient Agriculture Practices in Ghana for Women in Agriculture. We also have the Ghana Share Landscape Emission Reduction Project, among many others.
Meanwhile, Deputy Resident Representative of UNDP, Yelena Raketic, says investing in climate change has the potential to create 65 million jobs.
And that'll be it for business, but I'll leave you with a summary of international business news, after which we have sports to stay.
Thanks for staying with us. Ahead of Ghana's 2022 World Cup qualifier against Ethiopia on September 3, GFA Communications Director Henry Asante-Chum has revealed why his outfit chose the Cape Coast Stadium as the venue for the game.
The senior national team, the Black Stars, will begin camping on Monday, August 30, ahead of the 2022 World Cup qualifiers against Ethiopia and South Africa. The four-time African champions go head-to-head with Ethiopia on September 3 at the Cape Coast Stadium. Communications Director of the Ghana Football Association, Henry Asante, explains chose the Cape Coast Stadium as venue for the game.
Situation we find ourselves, there is no other option but to go to Cape Coast, and that's why we are playing in Cape Coast. Let's not also forget that Cape Coast has been very, very friendly to the team. We played South Africa in Cape Coast. We won 2-0. CK was then the assistant under Kwesi Appiah. Then we played, Sudan, and then we won 2-0 again. And then we played Ivory Coast, and we drew. So at least we played 3 games in Cape Coast, and it's not been bad. And the people of Cape Coast also love the Black Stars. Unfortunately, Kumasi is also not available. So that is why we are playing in Cape Coast.
After the Ethiopia World Cup qualifier on September 3, the Black Stars will focus on the bigger game against South Africa in Johannesburg on September 6.
Now, Managing Director of Right to Dream, Eddie Mensah, says Masao Didi Dramani was appointed as head of football to make the transition of players to Europe easy.
To advance the goals of Right to Dream, we have a few things you have to think about. We want our players to transition in an easier way when they go to Europe, particularly our team at FCN. So you're looking for somebody who has experience in Europe in terms of how the players transition from one location to another, right? You also want somebody who has football experience in terms of the tactical and the technical pieces. You also want somebody who has an experience in Ghana, who has experience with Ghana football, from the youth level all the way to the Premier League level. You also want somebody who understands Right to Dream's culture, because we value education and character. You also want somebody who's well respected within the football circles, within the media circles. You want somebody who has the gravitas, so that when they speak, people listen. So when I make all this list, there's really only one person that fits the entire criteria, and that's my senior brother, Didi Dramani. So in the end, it was an easy choice when the opportunity came for us to fill that role. Somebody who can handle all of football. He knows Ghana football. We know his success levels, but he also knows European football. He's spent a lot of time at FCN where our players end up. So who better to come and help us raise the next generation of footballers for Ghana?
And finally, Manchester City have suspended left-back Benjamin Mendy after being charged with rape and sexual assault. There is more in the following report.
7-year-old defender has been charged with 4 counts of rape and 1 count of sexual assault. The charges relate to 3 complainants over the age of 16 and are alleged to have taken place between October 2020 and August this year. Mendy of Pressbury has been remanded in custody and will appear at the Chester Magistrates Court on Friday. The left-back has played for last season's Premier League champions since 2017, when he joined from Monaco for a reported £52 million. Manchester City said the defender, who also plays for the French national team, had been suspended pending an investigation.
That's it for sports. You can read more, of course, at myjoyonline.com/sport. I'm Hans Mensando.
This is where we end this bulletin of Joy News Prime. My name is Daniel Daze. Many thanks for joining us. See you next time.
Hello, I'm Dori Nando. You can catch up with all the fun on the Cosmopolitan Mix and on all our shows via podcast. Just go to My Joy Online podcast and search for your favorite show and relive those moments all over again. Only on Joy 99.7 FM, radio for discerning listeners.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
It's up close on Reason is Jesus. My name is P.P. Fulton, the Christocentric.